Hi everybody, this is Miss Quinones. Join me today on page 107 in your workbook. We're going to go over this lesson on commission and fees. We should be done pretty quick. Make sure you're filling everything in with me as you go, and then you'll have plenty of time to get a head start and hopefully get your homework done as well. And most importantly, understand the lesson and get 100%. So commissions are important. It's a different type of fee that we use. So over here, let's mark our text with the different types of commission that we can earn as an employee. So sometimes people earn a commission per hour. And by the way, a commission is extra money that people make, okay? Other people earn it on their salary. Other people have a job where they only get paid by commission. They don't make any other money on their paycheck. And this seems to be the most common one. Sometimes if you have like a real estate agent or a job in sales, you get a smaller base salary. And then depending on how much you sell, you get an additional percentage added to your paycheck. So a lot of people like this one. It gets you some good bonus. Okay, so these are different ways we can earn money as an adult and get paid. Okay, and then over here our book is giving the examples of realtors, people who sell cars, stockbrokers. This is the kind of job where you're going to earn this money called a commission. Okay, so if you're paying out a commission, you're actually paying a fee for a service, and again it can be a fixed amount, a percent of the charge, or both. A lot of times the percentage is what we use. So over here our book is showing you an example of a realtor. So that's someone who sells houses. Maybe some of your parents could be realtors, right? And so in this example they're earning 5% commission, so extra money, based on the sale of the home. So again, this must clearly not be California because they're selling a home that's $140,000, okay? But if they sell a $140,000 house, they're going to show you right here how you can figure out the extra money or commission that they're going to make. And what I want you to notice when you see this is here's that percent proportion we've been talking about. The part in this problem is represented by the commission, and the denominator or the whole amount is the actual price of the home. And of course, we always put percent over 100. Our book is modeling scale factor for you. We've seen a lot of that. That's one way to solve it. And look, how cool is that? When they went through and solved it, this person gets an extra $7,000 just for doing their job and selling that house. So that's good motivation if you're a realtor, right? All right, let's check out our first example. So turn the page with me here, and we'll check out example 1. And if at any time you feel the need to pause to write something or switch something, of course, make sure you do that. So Angie works in a jewelry store. This is another job where people earn commission, is selling clothes or jewelry, especially if it's expensive. This job gives them 6.25% commission for everything she sells. So she's going to be motivated to really sell that jewelry, right? She gets extra money to take home. How much commission does she earn for selling a ring that costs $1,300? So the first method here is going to be our ratio reasoning. You can mark that as one option. And I want to remind you that the amount of the commission is the numerator, and the cost of the actual ring or the item that's being sold is going to be our denominator, and of course percent over 100. Again, our book is modeling scale factor as one option, and you all know that you could do multiple options, including cross products, which I like, or you could even do our ratio reasoning, which we'll look at next too. And in this case she earns an extra $81.25. So not too bad for selling one ring, right? If you sell a few of those rings, you're going to make some extra money on your paycheck. This one's the one I feel like you all liked the most, which was when we're dividing our ratio. So if we do that, and you can plug that into your calculator to follow along with me, that's 6.25 divided by 100. Of course, we're moving our decimal 2 times to the left. And then over here, we're going to be solving for C. So the opposite of dividing by 1300 is multiplying. And of course, this is the only step you have to show me on your setup. You can practice it, take a little pause and check it on your calculator. And we get the same answer as we did in method 1. So basically nothing is new here. We've done this before just like we did with sales tax, all right? So let's take a minute to read this one. Make sure you show your setup. Take a pause on your computer, and then when you're ready, unpause it, and we'll check our work together. All right, hopefully you took my advice. Ooh, that's kind of shadowy over here. And so here's how I did it. And of course, you could solve it differently, but I did my ratio reasoning. So over here, my commission is my unknown. And on this one, the cost over here of every piece that he sells of jewelry goes in that denominator. And of course, I divided by 100, got my decimal. And remember, that's the only setup you need to show on your homework. And whenever necessary, make sure you round to your hundredth place if you need to. Okay, so that should feel pretty standard there, like something we've done a few times. All right, let's turn that page. My workbook I ripped out, so it's kind of hard to read here, so hopefully it looks better on yours. All right, so on this one, we're looking for the amount of sales for example 2. Let me straighten that out a little bit, okay? So if Caleb needs to earn, so this one's going to be different, we're going to flip it on this problem. So he's saying that for his budget, he knows he's got to make $1,200 in commission each month. Okay, so he has to make that much so he can pay his rent, eat his food, and survive. Okay, so here's the scenario. He gets an 8% commission for everything he sells at his job. Look at this question. Let's highlight it. This is going to be different. What's the minimum amount? So we have to figure out how much does Caleb have to sell at his job so he doesn't get kicked out of his apartment. All right, we need to make sure he gets that minimum amount of money. So over here, our book is showing us the proportion. I want you to notice what they did here. This time, the numerator is the commission that we know he has to make, and the denominator, the whole amount, is the unknown number. Please highlight that. Make a big deal out of that because this is flipping the way we set it up last time. And we did something similar to this when we actually did our lesson in 2-4. And when we did our lesson in 2-4, this is the example our book is showing you scale factor. And what I told you is this is the one where you can't use that other shortcut we liked of 8 divided by 100 and then multiply it here, because our denominator is the unknown number that will change our answer. So what I tried to model for you here is cross products. So take a pause and copy this work so you have an example of cross products. Okay, you want to have that in your workbook. All right, so with my cross products, I multiply diagonally, right? And then of course, to get my amount or my A by itself, I divide both sides by 8. And I now know that if Caleb wants to stay in his apartment and survive, he better sell at least $15,000 at his work of merchandise to get that commission that he needs, or Caleb needs a better job, right? Hopefully he sells more than that. All right, here's your turn. Take a pause. I know there's not a lot of space here, but you can use the lines down here. Make sure you have your setup. Make sure you look at this sample over here, and then unpause when you're done. All right, so Quentin, at least 945. So we've got another one where we're flipping our proportion around. Show you guys my sticky over here. So here's how I did it. Remember that this time the denominator or the whole number is the part that's missing. Okay, so that's why this one is different. So again, I'm going to model cross products because I really like cross products on this one. That 945 times 100 is here. 5.25 times x is here. We know that in a proportion, cross products have to be equal. That's why this works. To get x by itself, I do the opposite. The opposite of multiply is divide, and of course, whatever I do to one side, I do to the other. I don't have my calculator right now, but you can plug it in to check it and see if you understand why he has to sell at least $18,000 worth of merchandise in order to make the commission that is his goal. Okay? All right, good job. If you missed anything, make sure you copy it. And of course, feel free to pause. And now we're gonna flip the page and check out example 3. All right. So for this one, we're gonna have to make some decisions. Okay, so they're gonna give us 2 options. This will absolutely be on your homework and your test, so make sure you're writing stuff down with me. And of these 2 options, we're gonna have to pick the option that matches the situation. Okay, so if Sabrina bought some paper supplies from an online retailer, this particular retailer charges a $6.95 shipping fee. Okay, everybody put that as option A, okay? Or they have another option. They'll charge you 8% of your total purchase. Here's what's important, because this company wants to make money, right? So they don't want to charge you the cheaper one. Look what they wrote, whichever is greater. Okay, so that's important. So let's highlight our question. The question is, if Sabrina's total purchase is going to be $85.50, it's a lot of paper, how much shipping will she pay? Not what's good for Sabrina, right? We're looking at what's good for this company. And remember what they said, whichever is greater. So first step is we got to solve for that first situation. Guys, remember this one, the $6.95? We already know that's actually $6.95, right? So we don't have to do anything with this one. So we actually just have to go straight to B. So look over here, we're going to find the percent of the number. We've done this before, right? 8% times $85.50. On this one, they gave us our ratio. And so what I did is I just showed you, because look, this is the kind we like, right? We're looking for the part. So we can use our shortcut here, since the denominator is the $85.50, and do the 8 divided by 100. And of course, solving for x, divide both sides by $85.50. Let's have you take a pause and check it on your calculator. So if this one is $6.84, and the first option where we didn't have to do work was $6.95, which one is she gonna pay? It's not gonna be the cheaper one, right? So check out step 2. She's gonna pay the $6.95 because at the beginning of the problem, they told us she has to pay the one that costs the most amount of money. So make sure you read it, because sometimes they'll ask about the most, and sometimes they'll ask about the least. So you wanna make sure you know what they're asking. Speaking of reading, it's your turn. Take a pause, read carefully, show your setup, and try it out. All right, I hope you're really doing it, okay, because this is going to be that practice that we need. So here's our tickets to a concert, and let's check out my work. So looking over here, for option A, I set up my proportion. Remember, we know the cost of the ticket, so this is where we can use that shortcut, because it's the numerator that's missing, not the missing whole number or denominator right there. So when I divided 4 by 100, I got 0.04, and then I multiply that by the cost of the ticket. And of course, if you don't like doing it like this, you could do cross products or scale factor always, right? You should get that same answer. So using this method, it was 242. And then when I look back at the question, this question was asking about the lesser fee, right? So the lesser fee between 250 and 242 from that problem is going to be 242. So in this circumstance, the 242 is the one that would be chosen. Okay, so you want to really read those carefully, and of course, have your setup. All right, it's our favorite time. It's time for apply. This will be your last one today. All right, let's flip it. Once you've flipped it, take a minute to pause for yourself and read it, and then we'll come up with an option, okay? see if my paper stays. Okay. So David's got his new job in sales. Do you guys see how I marked that as A? I'm going to set up my work over here for option A. So he can choose. So this is kind of cool, right? When you're a grown up, sometimes you get to decide how you want to get paid. So option A is he can only earn 10% of commission based on what he's selling a month. So if he's not good at selling stuff, he may not make very much money. But if he's really good at selling stuff, he might make a lot, right? Or option B. This is where I'm going to put my setup here. He can earn a monthly base salary. That's like at the beginning when they explain that option. And then that $1,500, that's his base salary, he'll get an additional 3% commission only on sales over $7,500. Now we're not going to pick by eeny, meeny, miny, mo. We got to do the math to decide which pay method would earn him more money if, pay attention to this part, highlight it, his average sales are $16,000 each month. What do you think David should pick if he wants to make the most amount of money? You've got space for your setups. Use all those skills we've talked about. And let's try it. Find the amount for A, find the amount for B, and make an educated decision for David. All right. Hopefully you paused. And here's how I did it. Hopefully you can see my pencil okay on my document camera here. So the first thing I did is I took that $16,000 by the 10%, and I figured out that that would be approximately $1,600. Okay, that option A was actually pretty easy to do, right? Option B was the one that was a little bit more complicated because they said that it was only on things over $7,500. So that's why my first step that I did is I had to subtract his average sales from the $7,500. Okay, make sure you understand why I did that part first. So now this $8,500 is what I'm going to base the money on. So I'm going to do $8,500. And remember, write this down on your paper if you didn't get the right answer. Okay, you have plenty of space on the side. You want to have this sample to look at. Okay, so take a pause and write it if you need to. When I multiply that by my 3%, I get $255. Check it on your calculator. And then do you see this number right here? This number, I swear I didn't make it up, right? This number came from my question. Remember that? That was his base salary. So that's the amount of money he made no matter what he sold. So his job option here was base salary plus the commission. So now here's our two options. Do you have advice to give to David? My advice would be take option B, right? Option B of base salary plus commission. Look right here. You're going to get $155 more if you choose that option. So David, it's time to get hired. All right, everybody, don't put your workbook away, right? You want to have it next to you. And let's get a head start on your homework. And if you finish it early, good job. Take a picture of your math setups, and you can work on other homework in the meantime for class to end. Bye, everybody. See you later.